Hi, Mark here from the Tangibound Podcast Network and host of the flagship show, the Tangibound Podcast. Did you know that we over at Tangibound are always looking for amazing podcasts to promote? And did you also know that we are also proud nerds and geeks of everything from movies, music, gaming, TV shows, and comic books to wrestling, MMA, soccer, and football? Whatever you can nerd or geek out about, we've got it. And if you're interested, we can help you find it. And if you're a show looking for a place to call home, we've got you covered. Side effects may include upset stomach, dizziness, tumors, shakes, and in some rare cases, death from excessive laughter. Though to be fair, it's only sometimes. Other side effects may include diarrhea, gallstones, heart palpitations, and strong desire for cookies on the dark side. Talk to your doctor and visit TangiboundNetwork.com and see if Tangibound Network is right for you.
To the last drop, are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. Life sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. Life sucks all of the time. Stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
Welcome to the Crazy Life, everyone. My name's Jen, and I am the hostess for the evening. And with me, as always, we got Brian and Hanno. Hey, guys.
Hello. Hola.
And we are sort of on track-ish. You
Kind
guys
of.
got us every other week so far. We're getting there. Now we just got to work on getting it every week. So we're trying, folks. We're trying. Hang with us.
Mm-hmm.
So, who wants to start us off today?
I can, I guess. I had therapy yesterday, which was well timed because I realized that I've been kind of because of trying to be self-reflective. Essentially, I realized that I'm really pulling in, and it's not anything bad. It's just that I realized that I've been really introverted recently. And also, the day before, I went and, I forgot what it was. Oh, my mom had to go to the bank for something, so I went with her to that. And then, I went to one grocery store, then the fruit and vegetable store, then another grocery store. And it's just, it's amazing how even though I'm listening to music while I'm doing that stuff, it's like that stuff still drains me. I don't.
A lot of people in.
Yeah, and then having therapy yesterday, doing the podcast Wednesday, the same day I did all the other stuff. It's like I'm realizing that, and even doing this tonight, and then I'm supposed to go out with Jeannie tomorrow,
and Sunday,
and I'm like, I don't know if I got it. I think I might be out of spoons, So, I don't know how the rest of the week will play out yet, but I canceled on my brother earlier. We were supposed to get together and talk about some stuff, and I just was like, I just can't. In my head, I'm like, I had enough for tonight, and but it was a good time in therapy because I was talking to her about how I feel really scared that if something happens to my mom, I've got a real short window of where I feel I'll be okay, and then and I don't really have a plan. And she's like, well, have you ever considered that you may never get to that point? And I'm like, you mean like I might die first or something? And she goes, no, nothing like that. She goes, I just mean that, she goes, you never know. Maybe something will change in your life and you will have a net at that point, essentially, And I was like, oh, it was just kind of funny how I'm telling her about how I'm, she's like, you're thinking negatively. Have you tried not thinking negatively? And I go, oh, you mean more negatively? And she goes, no, I mean positive. I'm like, wait, hold on. Never heard of this. Let's slow down. But when stuff like that happens, it really is kind of that like, oh, I'm veering off the path again. Like I'm letting the distorted thinking take over again. And I was telling her about, because she was talking about stuff and about, she knows that I read a lot of stuff, and if I'm given something, I will look into it and try to learn stuff about it. And I was like, my fear in all that is always, I just don't want to be that person who reads every self-help book but never actually does any work. And I was like, even though I know I've done work on myself, I still, I want to make sure I'm actually learning something. Having a ton of aha moments is great, but what are you doing with them? Type of thing. And then she goes, well, what have you learned about yourself? And I was like, I was like, okay, so that was kind of my homework for next time is, what have I learned about myself and such? And, the easy was recently, learning about, neurodivergence and such, and how that's helped me be nicer to myself about a lot of things that I stressed over and fought over before. And also it's kind of helped me, I think, let go of some of the years of bullying from when I was younger, because now I look at what I was bullied for, and then when I think about it in more of a neurodivergent mindset, I think of it more as that's why, because you are different. Like, it's, that's why obviously you were being picked on, because that's what jerk kids do, is pick on anything different. But it doesn't mean that you're defective or bad. It just means you're different. And, 44-year-old Brian can look at that and understand that. Youthful Brian could not, because like right now, if somebody called me a nerd, I'd be like, okay, so like, why'd you waste your breath on that? I'll tell you I'm a nerd. I don't care. Or not even a nerd. Like I said, I'm firmly in the geek camp with nerd tendencies. But it was like somebody on a Twitter group that I'm in, they posted a thing that's like, it's like you take so many questions and it's like, nerd, goth, jock, or I forgot what the other one is, and I'm in my head, I'm going, there's no way I'm not in the nerd camp on this. There's no way I'm not in the nerd camp, and sure enough, like it's got like for the extreme part, it says LARPing basically. And I'm a good ways down that, which is funny because LARPing has always been a bridge too far for me. Like, I'm like, nope, like that's too geeky even for me,
just the pure social interaction of it.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm too introverted in that aspect. Yep.
And social interaction.
Yeah. Like, no, that's not me. So, but it was funny. I was like, of course I'm, extreme nerd on this thing. It's like all I had to do was ask me one question, which is, have you owned a comic book and gaming shop?
Yeah, no
Yes. Okay. Here you go. No more questions. So, but like I said, growing up wearing a Spider-Man shirt to school was not the cool thing. It was, you get made fun of for it, for being, a geek or whatever. And now it's like I wear a Spider-Man shirt and I get like 15, compliments on the Spider-Man shirt now because it's the cool thing, So, but it was nice to kind of have that moment in there, and she even brought some stuff to my attention because I was, talked about going back to school and trying to get just a degree of some sort so that if nothing else, that's my fallback, and she even mentioned to me, she was like, she's like, you've been in the podcast world for all these years. She's like, why don't you just learn how to edit podcasts? And she's like, and just offer that service to people. She's like, then you don't have to do tons of customer service. You could, and I was like, yeah, I hadn't thought of that. I, am not known for my editing, but, but there are plenty of tools out there to learn how to do it. So, it is something I might look into, but it was just her trying to show me, like, because I made a comment that I don't have any skills to put on a resume anymore. because the skills that I have are from 20 years ago. And yes, they're still relevant, but I don't, basically the skills I have are set to get me a retail or customer service job. They're not set to do much for a career situation. And, she was kind of like, I think you're selling yourself short. And I was like, no, I get that, because normally I do. I'm like, but I think I'm being pretty realistic here in that a lot of the stuff, like even podcasting, there's some of the stuff from podcasting, yeah, I could put on a resume, but there's also plenty from it that's not going to read unless I'm applying for a podcast job. If I'm going somewhere else, like if I was going for a business world job, this stuff is not going to translate real well, So that's why I said I get where she's coming from, because it is the concept of just making sure I'm not minimizing, because again, we all know that's one of my strengths / weaknesses. But I appreciate that she did that though, because it is, again, like every little thing in life, it's like when you approach it, are you trying to find positive outcomes, or are you trying to find, and I don't even want to say negative outcomes, because I don't think I approach it looking for negativity. I really don't. I think I'm looking at it as, well, it's that I'm minimizing the positivity. That's what it is. Right? Like I look at something and I'm going, and I'll minimize all the positivity out of it to where it's not negative, but it's also no longer positive. And it's not really neutral. I don't know how to, it's why it's its own thing,
It's your way of protecting yourself.
Yes, but I don't think I'm purposely being negative anymore most of the time.
No, it's a defense mechanism.
Yes, exactly. Whereas I think years ago, I think I was purposely looking negative because I was expecting negative things. And now I'm more like you were saying, Jen. It's like I think I'm more like, well, I don't want to let myself get too positive because that can be dangerous, which there's truth in. But I also,
It's not dangerous. It just means that your one of your fears is your fear of disappointment and hurt.
That's why I was
saying.
And
that's everybody. Everybody does have that. I'm not saying that, but it's the whole, you miss every shot you don't take.
Yeah. But I think that's why I said it's dangerous, because it can set you up for hurt. That's where it's dangerous.
You gotta get comfortable.
No, I know.
Rejection and hurt, though.
I know.
That's the key.
Yeah. But like I said, that's what it really comes down to, is that's why I see it as a dangerous move to be overtly positive, because it can lead to hurt. And that's why I minimize to try to, like you said, protect myself from that end result. And, but like I said, it was nice to kind of have that reminder, because I don't, like I said, I feel, I think talking with her yesterday, I realized that it was like, yeah, distorted thinking's really been creeping in my head more and more, and doubt has really been creeping in more and more. And it's so easy and comfortable that you don't even realize it's doing it. And I think it was nice that she flagged it, like, hey, I see you doing this, and it's like, oh, now that I'm aware of it, when in the days forward, I can approach it and try to actively fight it again, so. And it was funny because she was like, well, do you want to come back in, 3 weeks or 4 weeks? And I was like, well, how about 3? Because, I might need the help to kind of reframe, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, oh, actually, I don't have anything in 3 weeks. I'm like, well, I don't want 3 weeks anyway. I was just saying that to make you feel better, And then she goes, oh, you may not like 4 weeks either. Because I'm like, oh, great. What is it, like 8 in the morning? And she's like, actually 8:30. And I was like, oh, God, no. And then she goes, oh, wait, I do have 3:30 after, in the afternoon. And I was like, well, I'll take that. So, because it's like, if it's 8:30 in the morning, there's no point in me going. I'll just be so deadheaded that I'm not going to, it's so hard for me to, to really do that work. Like, it's hard for me to be logical at 8:30 in the morning. So I was like, it's like, well, I guess I'll have to push it another week if possible. But luckily she had a day. So, but it was really interesting though, too, because we found that there's times where she doesn't necessarily put a firm boundary on our time sometimes. So we'll just be talking and having a good conversation, and it'll just go on. And then she'll be like, "Oh, we got to wrap this up." She's like, I didn't realize like yesterday when I went in, she's like, "I have an appointment or a meeting at 3:00. So, hard out, and I'm like, "Okay, no problem." And we're talking and all this. And then, she's scheduling me and she goes, "Okay, well, we actually, blah, blah." She's like, "I'm actually 10 minutes late for my meeting." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." 'Cause I don't look at a clock when I'm in there. I keep my phone in my pocket. I don't, and
that's her responsibility.
No. That's what I'm getting at. She actually even was like, "Oh no, this is on me." She's like, "I didn't set the boundary there." And I was like, "Well, I'm still, I am still sorry that but it's like, I can't, we're just talking. I lose track of time. And like I said, I'm not looking at a clock. Like even when we do podcasts, I know about when it's an hour, from doing this enough, but I still have it on a little clock right over here to the left in the program I'm recording with that I do keep an eye on to see where we're at, but I don't do that in therapy.
You're taking responsibilities that are not yours.
No, I know, but I'm still, she told me up front and I didn't even, do anything in there. So no,
her job is
no,
to keep track of her time,
I'll firmly disagree with you on this. We both have our blame in this scenario. This isn't all her. So, because I'm pushing a boundary at that point too. So there is my own.
I don't know. I thought it was always with my therapist, it was both of us.
Yeah, that's why I said she told me up front there's a boundary, and I pushed through the boundary without looking or checking, and I could have done that. That's why I said.
Well, no, with my therapist, she keeps an eye on the time.
Yeah.
And the cue, she doesn't, she lets me finish, obviously, but the cue is she arranges my next.
Yeah, that's usually what it is for me too.
Yeah, but she does it 5 minutes ahead of time and stuff. But she's looking at the computer. She's watching the time. My job is to sit there and talk.
I know,
her
but
job is to keep the constraints on it because that's her job.
I get that, but there was a firm difference in this one because she told me up front that there was a firm out, and I didn't at any point go, I know what it feels like about an hour, and I just kept talking. So I at some point very well could have said,
"We're just not going to agree," and that's okay.
Yeah, but it's just funny how it is that way because she enjoys talking with me. She enjoys the conversation
we have. That's a really nice thing that she does.
Right. And that's great. And and in no way do I see this as anything other than a professional, I'm not, this is a friend, it's nothing. There's no delusion in that aspect, but it is nice that it isn't just a cold, it's mostly one-sided because that's how it should be, but it is nice that it doesn't feel like I'm just talking to the wall that occasionally says, okay, or yep, it's nice that it does feel like a conversation at times. And that helps, I think, a lot of, with putting me at ease in the room. So, yeah, so that's, I think that's pretty much been it for this week. I've really been feeling overwhelmed, I think, recently. I've really just wanted to just stay in bed. And not in a depressed way, really, but just I feel overwhelmed. And I think my body's really wanted a good recharge. A couple nights ago, around midnight, I couldn't keep my eyes open. And I told my mom, I said, I'm going to bed. I went to sleep. I didn't wake up until noon the next day. I mean, I was out. And it's rare I sleep that kind of sleep, And I think I woke up once over the night, and I was like, yeah, I think my body's really telling me hey, this is too much of everything for you at the moment. And I just haven't listened. I just keep pushing on. Who needs a spoon? I found a fork over here.
Absolutely. No, I get you. I do. I don't want to cut you off. Are you good?
No, I'm done. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure.
Well, I take that back. I have one last thing, and this is me celebrating a win, actually, which is this week when we recorded Salty Language, it was our 600th episode. So
that's amazing.
The fact that, you know, and I've been on all but, 2 or 3 of them, I think. Because there were a couple when I had a really bad gout attack when I was bedridden. I couldn't do the show. And I think I might have had like food poisoning one time or something like that. And I think that's it. Other than that, I'm on all the rest of them. So the fact that I did that many of that, and, you know, how many ever of these were we on? 340 for this, is just mind-blowing to me that now between the 2 shows and the enthusiasts that we've done, I've put in almost 1,000 podcasts.
Wow.
It's amazing.
Yeah, because 340 of this, 600 of that, that's 940. We have 50 enthusiasts. I'm not on every one of those, but still, it's like, you know, it's well over 900, you know, so that's crazy to me, considering the reason that we started Salty Language in a way was, part of it for me was the being responsible to something. And also to just make sure there was hangout time with me and Tony. So the fact that we've had that many and we keep doing it and we're still having fun doing it is just mind-blowing to me. So that's easily my win for the week, even though the stuff in therapy probably should be, but it's not. So
that's fair. Well, I overbooked myself, as I have a tendency to do, because I have a hard time saying no. Right. But it was, so I talked about my the conference I went to, and then let me just trying to put together all the time that's gone past. So it's been really interesting to still find my balance. I'm still struggling with my whole balance. I'm getting to the point now that I'm realizing that I can do, like, I have a meeting on Tuesday and then maybe one other thing during the week and one thing on the weekend.
Yeah.
You know, trying as far as scheduled things. I'm really trying to kind of keep to that. And then even though, I have a dog sitting job this week that's Tuesday to Saturday, and I overlapped a cat visit on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then next week I don't have anything, but then the following week I have a dog staying with me for 9 days. And I think that, I have something at the end of March too. Got a puppy sitting job. I made the mistake of going on to my app and updating my availability. Mm. Because it asks you just click the OK button.
Oh, yeah.
And then all of a sudden I got a bunch of stuff. Like the one today, or the one I'm on now, is a special needs dog. So, of course, and it was somebody I work with asked me for a friend of hers, and I'm not saying no to a special needs dog. Mm. The cat was already booked. The dog that's staying with me is the sister of my mom's boyfriend. Mm. And then the puppy is actually a referral from another customer that I had. They just got a puppy. Their friends got a puppy and told them about me. And so I can't turn that down. So that's kind of how I got myself in this situation. And at the same time, I'm still dating. I've got, a couple people I'm talking with. So I still want to talk with them and go out with them on dates here and there. We're all busy, but still. So I'm trying to make sure that I'm also getting enough me time and enough sleep, because sleep's very important, and keeping up with everything at work, and making sure I can maintain my focus there. So I'm still kind of struggling with the whole balancing thing. We're working on that still. Doesn't help that on January 1st, for those who are not aware, there was a massive change in the United States mental health system. from what I understand, it actually is affected not just mental health, but a lot of other areas as well. First and foremost, the pharmaceuticals for via insurance are now going down to you can't really pick where you're getting your meds from anymore. The insurance companies are dictating where you have to get them filled.
Yeah, they're probably signing contracts. Like I mentioned to you when you told me about this, my mom's
Yeah.
insulin years ago, she had to go to Walmart because her insurance company had a deal with Walmart at the time. You know, so she had to go there if she wanted to get it paid for by them.
Yeah, so it's getting pretty tough out there. So
Yeah.
folks, please, please, please. I know it's hard, especially when you're hurting, to continue pushing, but continue pushing. I know it's tough to get those appointments. I know I literally was told, because one of my meds was getting hung up in the transfer over to the new place. And I kept calling and I kept leaving voicemails and I was demanding to talk to someone. And there was literally no one I could talk to because it all had to go through this system. And I asked the woman, I'm like, I have passed withdrawals. I've gone through withdrawals now because I haven't had this medicine in 2.5 weeks. We're going on 3 weeks now. And it is starting to negatively affect my life.
Yeah.
I have to get this med.
Right.
And she's like, short of you coming in and standing in front of the desk and not leaving, that's the only thing we can do is you can leave messages or you can just stand there.
Yeah.
And she was not being mean by any
Right.
stretch. In fact, I could tell she was almost in tears.
Yeah.
Her voice was cracking because she's like, this is not the first story I've heard. And trust me, ma'am, my heart goes out to you.
Yeah.
She's like, I so feel for you. I just have nothing I can do.
Well, it's so frustrating on that end when you really do want to help someone, but your hands are just tied. It really sucks, you know?
Yeah, and I knew, and that's why, I wasn't hard on her at all.
Yeah, right.
You know, because I understand that she's just doing what she can do.
Yeah.
So thankfully that night, I was watching the, where my medicine's from. I was watching their site and it finally popped up as available. So I was able to run over and get that. But to give you kind of a scope of since the first of the year, I ran out of my medicine that stops me from crying. And I was off of that for about a week. Finally got that one. Thankfully, the really, really important one, I was able to keep continuous on. Got a little touch and go for there. I had to go to a couple places to get it filled, but that's the one that if I go off of it, I will have severe side effects. So even one day, I really can tell. So thankfully, that one I was able to keep consistent on. But the one that I was off for about 3 weeks is a mood. I don't know what the official word for it is, but for me, the effects on me is a mood stabilizer.
Yeah.
And I was without that for about 3 weeks. And it was, I'm very self-aware, so I'm able to kind of recognize the majority of it and keep myself steady-ish.
Yeah.
But it's hard. It's like walking a tightrope. You know, it's hard to keep myself balanced. And it's very shaky for sure. So now I finally have all of my meds and everything straight, knock on everything for the moment.
Right.
So I'm very glad to say that. And I'm feeling so much better because of it.
Yeah, I bet.
It was very interesting though to see kind of what you were even mentioning before, Brian, about sometimes you need to go off the meds to see where you're at, like a gut check.
Yep.
And this was an unintentional gut check.
And the wrong way because you had to go cold turkey on it. Like you couldn't even wean to it. Like if you knew this was coming, you could have weaned even, but you didn't know it was coming. And then, you know, I mean, if you knew the change was coming, you wouldn't know that there was going to be all this chaos. But I guess it makes sense, right? Like there's a big shift. Everybody's probably trying to call and get things sorted out. So there's a huge backlog, but It shouldn't happen. It absolutely shouldn't happen. People should not have to go without medicines they need. You know, this isn't, you know, some stupid thing. This is, you know, life-affecting medicine.
I'm super fortunate. Yeah, I am super, super fortunate that this is the worst that's happened for me.
Yeah.
And I'm not comparing my bad to someone else's bad. Yeah. I'm just saying that I do recognize the fact that my bad for me is bad.
Yeah.
But there are people who are struggling worse than I was.
Yeah.
One post about broke my heart. A woman that I'm Facebook friends with from my past posted she struggles pretty hard with mental health. She's stuck. She can't get any medicine because she basically makes more than what she can get for government aid for, but not enough to afford things out of pocket. And her insurance and the premium stuff are too expensive. And she can't find anybody else to take her insurance either. I mean, it's just like this ball of mess. And she literally posted, I can't do this anymore.
Man, yeah.
I can't live like this. I can't do this anymore. It's just, I can't fight anymore. And it almost seemed as if she was signing off, basically.
Yeah, that's for sure. Could be seen as a concerning post for sure, you know?
Yeah, and I get it. I just, my heart goes out to her and I get it. And she even put in there, and please don't tell me that it could be worse, or don't.
No, that never helps. Yeah.
Right. She's like, and I have explored every option. So, sending me numbers and telling me to call here or do this and that and the other. She's like, please just no.
Yeah.
It's all, people trying to help her, but she's just so frustrated and so at wit's end that she can't even get her head up enough to try to breathe air. She's just letting herself drown because she's so tired.
That's so sad, because nobody should slip through the cracks like that.
No, and nobody. I know, and more and more and more people are, and it's heartbreaking. And they're changing the way they're doing testing, and they're changing the way that diagnoses are coming about. And it's just, everything is so up in the air and crazy right now when it comes to mental health stuff. So if you're out there struggling, please, please, please just hang on, and keep fighting and keep pushing and ask people to help fight with you. Cause God, you just gotta.
Yeah, well, and for like her situation is one thing, but like if you do run up against the wall with your insurance or blah blah blah, there are a lot of good online communities where if you don't know what your options are, other people can be really helpful with, try this or try this. Again, I'm not advocating her, because if she says she's tried things, then she's tried things. I'm not. But there are people who just don't know what to do, or don't know that there are options out there.
Yeah.
There's tons of stuff. I remember Jeannie talking about that with me one time, about how there's programs out there that people don't even know about that can help people, but, there's no money to promote the programs,
Well, yeah, and, a good friend of ours also said, and this just, it really struck home with me, is she's like, basically suicide is an option.
Yeah.
Suicide is an option for you to choose. The goal is to put it on the menu.
Yeah.
And put all sorts of things on the menu.
Yeah, make it the last option on the menu. Yeah.
Yeah, you have all these things on the menu, all these choices, as many choices you can possibly put on the menu. Then look at the whole picture and then make your decision on what you're going to do.
Right.
And I thought about that. It's, because we are so afraid to say, whatever your beliefs may be, but we're so afraid to say that suicide's not an option. It's not an option. It's not. Well, guess what, folks?
Yeah,
it is.
We're
like
all
every human beings. We all can have actions. It is an option.
Yeah.
It is not a good option. It's not one I recommend, and it's one, in fact, I would highly recommend against.
Yeah.
And I would definitely fight against it. But if that's your decision, it's your decision. And it's horrible to think about, but it's true.
Yeah.
You know, I just don't want that.
I know.
I just don't want that.
I hate whenever I hear that somebody feels that's a viable option for them, because you know essentially how far down the scale they've slid. You know, and it's like, oh man, you know, and it's so hard. It's so hard to crawl out of a hole, you know, with no ladder. And you know, and these are people who feel like there's no ladder. And no matter what the options are, especially, you know, there's some people that, you know, you jump through hoops after hoop after hoop after hoop, and eventually you're like, I'm just tired. I'm tired of jumping. I'm tired of this. And like every time I get told no, or I get turned away or whatever. And it's like at some point you're just like, I'm done. It's just not worth it anymore. And it sucks.
Well,
we shouldn't have to go through 9 million hoops just to get basic care.
I agree.
You know?
And for those that are friends with someone who's in these spots, your part is not to tell them they can't do. Yeah. Your part is to help fill the menu of things and options. So be there for them and help them see the options. A very close friend of mine is going through the really tough parts of her life, and I gave her a key to my place. And I told her, anytime, I don't care, day, night, I'm here, I'm not here, I don't care. Like, if you ever feel stuck and you just need to be by yourself, or you just need some place to hide, I said, you use this key.
Right.
You know, and I'm doing everything I can to make sure she understands that she has options.
Right.
That she has place to go, she has options to do, and a non-judgment zone. Like, I won't even ask any questions. She wants to talk, we can talk. If she just needs to be, just tell me, you know what, I'm hitting your apartment, I'm going to be in your bedroom, I'm good, I just need to be by myself for a little bit. I said, that's fine.
Yeah.
As long as you stay safe. I said, that's my main concern. As long as you say you're safe,
yep,
you do what you need to do. But my whole purpose and everything I'm trying to do is remove any sort of roadblock and anything that I can take away from her situation.
Yeah.
So that is the ultimate last option.
Yeah.
You know, hopefully it even falls off the menu.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
But, you know, even if it doesn't, at least I can say that I can feel comfortable with, I knew that I did everything I could do and in my power to help the situation.
Yeah.
And it's tough because I've had to have conversations with a couple people that just to double check me and say, okay, I feel like I've done everything I can do.
Yeah.
Do you think I need to be doing more?
Right.
Or can you think of anything else I can do to help the situation?
Yeah, because it's a tough line, because there's, you know, like, and I'm using you in this example because you have the tendency to be I can't think of what the word for it is, where you want to help. Like you know, and not in a normal, you will do anything. You'll put yourself aside essentially, which isn't bad, but sometimes it is, you know. But so you also have to kind of make sure you're keeping yourself in check, in that it's not your responsibility to save someone, but you know, you do want to help, of course. You know, you just have to also make sure you're not, you know.
Well, the whole basis of my relationship with my friend is mutual respect and trust, something that both of us have struggled to find most of our lives. And regardless of the decisions that we make in our lives, whether we agree with what the other person's doing or not, we are unconditional support for them.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I'll tell you, very much like what a therapist would do. You know, if you're making a decision that's not a decision that I think is the best for you, I'll explain why I think that maybe something else might be better. But if she makes a decision, or if I make a decision that she doesn't agree with, we'll stand by we'll make fun of each other, but we will stand by each other.
That's fair.
Man, that was stupid.
Yeah.
but we'll still stand by each other. And whatever decision she makes, I'll still stand by her. And, you know, we were getting into some really dark humor and stuff one night, because that's what we do. We take something that's somewhat serious and we make fun of it, because we need to get things out of our heads. And sometimes it helps just saying it and knowing that the other person's not going to take it out of context. It's not going to go anywhere other than that moment. And we understand that it's passing thoughts that we need to get out of our heads so they don't stick.
Right.
So, you know, so it's understanding that and respecting whatever decisions they make. And just saying, you know what, you're your own person. You're making the best decisions for you. I don't have to agree with them. Yeah. You know, I'm just going to be here for the ride. So I want that, so I want to give that.
Right.
And I'm learning a lot more about myself and setting appropriate boundaries. Another friend of mine, and I swear I don't seek out people who need help. I really don't. But another friend of mine is going through chemo, and I want to be there so bad, but I respect the fact he knows I'm available. He knows I would do anything for him. He is fine. He doesn't want me coming over. He doesn't say that, but I get it. Mm-hmm. Every time I offer, he's like, I'm good. So I'm like, okay, I have to respect that boundary. I have to respect his wishes and his boundary. And I did make him promise that every few days he checks in with me.
Right.
I said, I don't care if it's you or somebody else. I said, just someone needs to check in with me so I know everything's going on and stuff.
Yeah.
And he agreed to do that. He's like, I will make a point to check in with you every couple days. And I said, okay, that's all I need. Not all I need, but I will accept.
Right. Yeah.
So I will accept that.
Yeah.
Like, you sure? I'm a really good pillow. I'm really soft. You know? You can just use me as a pillow. It's okay. Yeah. It's like, he's like, no, I'm good. And I'm like, okay. So it's really, I think, on both parts. Sometimes I found myself in positions where I'm overgiving and not respecting people's boundaries or not setting good boundaries on my part.
Yeah.
And I finally feel I'm kind of getting to, after 44 years, I'm finally getting to the point where I can recognize their boundaries and my boundaries much better.
Yeah.
So yeah, my mom just shakes her head. She's like, really? I'm like, I just love people. And if I can be of any service to anyone, I will. That's just who I want to be.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be me, and I wouldn't be happy being me if I wasn't that person.
Right.
Yeah. Now that I've, super conceited and blew my ego all up to hell. Huh. But yeah, so there's just so much going on, but it's like good stuff, sorta. I feel it's so hard to put into words because I feel very content in my world, but I also feel very shaky still. So kind of goes back to the whole balance thing. I'm still kind of trying to work out in some consistency and some balance because I can see things tip in one way or another quickly. So I just need to slow it down. But yeah, so now I've talked, half an hour now?
No, not quite.
Not quite. All right. I know. And I'm supposed to be keeping it short today. Anyways.
That was.
How was your week?
Oh, that's funny.
I love my voice. What can I say?
Things have been pretty good. I have followed through on my commitment to start clearing clutter. And so far, I've managed, my goal is every time I go to work on Sunday, I'm taking something up there and throwing it into the dumpster, the trash compactor. And both times I've had the back of my car full of stuff. And I don't mean like packed to the ceiling. I just mean, there's just boxes and stuff or whatever. And the last week was I walked into the garage and just once again, going by, okay, there was something I needed to get. And in the way of that were these 2 old Radio Shack monster speakers that I'd refurbished. And I had to rebuild. They don't make the speakers anymore, so I had to recone the speakers and that are in the cabinets. And so there's my time and effort in these boxes, but they're basically junk. Nobody wants them. Nobody, it's just nostalgia.
Yeah.
They're like the giant speakers you had in your college dorm room in the late 80s. And I just was like, nope, they're in the way of the thing that I need to get. I don't use these. They went into the trash compactor at work, and it was awesome sounding because trash compactor destroys things.
Yeah.
quite in a satisfying kind of way. But then the funny part is, like, 4 days later, I see it coming out the other end, and all of a sudden, I see like there was a big, huge box of DVDs that I just, in they went. And then I saw like a couple drop out like 4 days later into the dumpster. And I had that like moment of like, oh, and it's like, nope, gone, out of sight. And that's the thing is, like, they're out of sight, out of mind. They were before I walked in there, and they are now. I don't miss any of it. Yeah. And there was so many things that I actually laid out to take photos of. And when I laid them all out, I'm like, I don't need a picture of any of this. Like, whatever memories I have are already in photos somewhere else or something else related to this. And so a lot of stuff just went into the junk. It was great. And I gave stuff away where I could. And I'm, at least it was a first shot. So 2 weekends worth that's happened. And then I got back into some of my dad's stamp collection and reaching out to some people and selling some stuff there. So all that's great. It's good to just, it's felt really good. The thing about it is, it's one of those things, once you get started, you want to just keep going. And it's like,
yeah,
but I have other things going on. And that, other than like that, it's like, man, life is normal, usual stuff. Play some music, do a little this, do a little that. I'm excited about I've started working on the project in the summer, and it's got me really excited. Work's still really good so far. Seriously, knock on some wood. That looks like, I just hope we make it with that leak.
Yeah.
I don't mind having that stress when it's not 2 degrees.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. At least hold off till spring when it's tolerable.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So otherwise, things are pretty good, and I still come, like, I've been doing more physical work this week, been getting out and doing, like, breaking up ice and stuff in the parking lot at work. And boy, that first day hurt a lot. But then, the second day, okay, it's a little easier. And I even did it at home today. I'm like, at least it's some exercise. Like,
right.
I came into work and I was saying that I was feeling sore. And Omar looked at me and said, "You went to the gym?" I'm like,
nature's gym, bro. Nature's gym.
I was like laughing. I'm like, well, maybe after this, I'll, hit the treadmill for a little while on Sunday after work or something. I don't know. But yeah, things have been good. And so one of the things I did when I was cleaning up my basement, I hadn't talked to my friend Dolores in a while. And she is when I met her way back in the 90s, I was on tour in a band, and she was, worked for Verizon or whatever, and decided to go to school. Here she was in her, late 20s, goes to school, gets, I think it's 2 master's degrees in mental health. I think it is. At any rate, and she's been a teacher. She's, worked for emergency rooms and, various practices. And now she basically does just has some clients, internet related clients. And, she was calling to ask me, it's funny. She calls me when it's about, she just sometimes wants to bounce some ideas off of me or what I think. And it's usually about alcoholism is one of them, of course, because she would like to just get my perspective on sometimes, where do you fall on this? And, while still maintaining her professional, the anonymity of her client. and so she'll offer up the kind of a scenario, and the other one is sex, which I was like, really? All right, cool. Like that's my things, booze and sex.
Yep,
cool.
That's right. That's what your business card says.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what it says.
Music, booze, sex.
Sex, drugs, and rock and roll, right?
And ice breaking.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Ice breaking. And so we had a great just general catch up too. We hadn't talked in a long time. She's moved down to I think she was first in the Carolinas. Now she's in Florida. And so we're just doing general catch up, and we're just talking about some other stuff. And she brings up this term that I'd never heard before called urge surfing.
Yeah, it's not a term I've heard either. Yeah. Right.
And I was like, and clearly it's a professional kind of a term, and and it's all about a way to conquer cravings. And it's a process. It seems, to me, it's a cognitive therapy system, and it's a mindful way to conquer cravings. Because we were talking about some stuff that was, like for alcohol, it's like, I'm not trying to conquer craving. To me, it's an abstinence thing. And I was referring to something else, and she said, oh, you should, I said, oh, well, it had to do with food. And I just said, well, you just don't eat that. And she's like, well, that's not urge surfing. That's, you still interact with whatever it is, but you just learn to do it better. So I was like, this sounds like a great topic, especially since none of us had ever heard about it.
Right. Yeah.
So I found there's lots of articles on it, but I like this one. It's on a website called Body Tutor, and you can find the link in the show notes. And I'm gonna start with the basics of it, and there's more like an advanced kind of a thing, and I will leave that to the listener to check it out for themselves. But it starts with cravings are like waves. They rise, build to a peak, and eventually fall. We're going to learn to ride those waves using a skill called urge surfing. Let's jump in. It says the problem with cravings, we're surrounded by temptations like Cinnamon Crunch bagels at the office, gummy bears stashed away in the pantry.
Yep.
Whatever tempts you, one thing is certain, cravings are a beast. And what's worse is when we're faced with temptations, we feel like there are two different versions of ourselves fighting for control. One part of us, our rational side, wants to eat healthy and do the right thing. But there's an irrational side to us too, and it wants what it wants. And when you think about it, it's kind of a bully. It's big, strong, mean, and most of all, relentless. This is why we feel like we can't control our cravings. It's like we're stepping into the ring with a pro boxer without knowing how to throw a punch. I had a client explain it to me like this. I feel like I'm battling a giant and I've got nothing to defend myself. Well, that is very true. The reality is stopping a craving is like trying to hold back a Category 5 hurricane. But many of us still try. We white-knuckle our way through temptations by bearing down and hoping for the best. Here's the nice advertising, but at My Body Tutor, we don't hope for the best. We practice the right skills to deal with cravings, and we win through deliberate practice and accountability. Sounds like a good program. So it starts with how to beat a craving. The key to beating a craving is first knowing what not to do. So how not to fight a craving. 1, trying to stop them. So you can't stop them.
Right.
They'll keep coming.
Yeah.
It's a train coming down the tracks, man.
Yep. That
2,
relentless word was the key before.
That was the key,
yeah.
Right? Yep. 2, distracting ourselves. On the surface, sounds like great advice. But then you run into the polar bear problem. Well, what's the polar bear problem? Well, try really hard not to imagine a polar bear right now. Think about anything else. Anything at all. Come on. You're not picturing a polar bear right now. Well, it's hard, right?
Right. That's funny. Yeah.
And the more you try, the more ingrained the image of a polar bear is in your head right now.
I love that.
Here's how that applies to a temptation. When we try to think about something other than that warm slice of pecan pie sitting on the counter, the more we start thinking about the pecan pie. And then we are obsessing, and now we are grabbing a fork.
And now I'm thinking about is pecan pie.
Pie.
I forgot all about that polar bear.
Don't visualize the pecan pie.
Too late. Too late.
I'm so seeing it.
Yeah.
I'm actually seeing the fork
Me
breaking
too.
the crust right now.
See, I'm seeing the polar bear eating the pie.
Pecan pie, that's even better. Number 3, you cannot talk yourself out of it. We are really, really good at rationalizing. If I didn't want to work out today, I could give you 100 reasons why skipping is a great idea. If we needed a reason why we deserve pizza right now, we could sway a jury of 12 with our argument. Okay, so these all lead to a different approach. And here's why. Because cravings, this is why the wave is a great way of looking at this. Cravings, 1, start small. Build momentum as they ramp up. 3, hit a peak. And then 4, gradually fall. Like a wave, the urge you are battling will fall. You just have to let it. And through practice, you can learn to do that, experiencing an urge without acting on it. So what is urge surfing? So this is a mindfulness technique used to experience a craving rather than fight it. And by doing this, train yourself to objectively witness the sensations you are feeling and ride them just like a surfer rides a wave. So, how to surf an urge? And this is going to be the simple way of doing this. This is kindergarten here. So the goal is to build confidence, right? You need to practice. You're not going to like jump on the black diamond, run on the ski slope. You're not going to go, hey, give me a major league pitcher. I'm the first time, up at the plate. You need to practice. You need to start small and work with less intense urges, preferably something that doesn't involve food at all, which I think is a great idea.
Yeah.
But this is awesome. Let's start an urge like wanting to check your social media, read a text, or play your phone, your game on your phone. So set the stage. She uses text messaging as a practice. Find a comfortable place free from distraction and place our phone with an unread message in front of us.
Oh boy.
We are not going to check our phone. We are just going to sit and experience how it feels to not check our message.
Oh boy.
Now sit back and simply observe. Be mindful and focus intently on what you're feeling right now. What's going on with the senses? What do you see or hear? What does the temperature of the room suddenly feel like? What kind of thoughts are you having? Now feel the urge begin to rise. The idea is to be present and mindful and experience the urge, but not act on it. Imagine yourself as that surfer riding the wave as the urge builds. Bonus points if you can pinpoint the exact moment when the urge hits its peak. The momentum may feel like there's no end, that it will keep rising, but just like a roller coaster climbs and climbs, it eventually hits a peak and falls. Ride the urge until it subsides. Even if it takes some time, it's okay. So what's next? Well, when you're comfortable with low intensity urges, then you can scale up and practice again. And what you do is you do those 3 steps again and again until you know what to expect and that you've built some confidence because you can get through it. Now, you can go to the link that we have at the bottom and find out the 4 pro urge surging tips. But I will leave that to you, dear listener, to find out for yourself.
I love this. And there is something that I'll even add to it that a good friend told me. He said, play the tape out.
Yep.
And when you're sitting there and you're not checking your message, and you really want to check your message, play that tape all the way to the end. It's like, okay, if I don't check my message, what's going to happen? And then just keep playing it out to the very end. In the end, absolutely nothing is going to happen if you don't check your message. Now, those that are yelling and saying, oh my God, someone could be needing me and blah, blah, blah. If they needed you, they would call you instead of texting. So you just gotta sit in that. And that's what I mean by playing it all the way through is think about, okay, if I don't do this, Is it going to devastate the world like it feels like Hannah was saying, ride that wave? Like right now, the world depends upon me answering this text message. You'll have that feeling. And it's understanding, working on putting perspective behind it. It's like, really? Really? The world's going to end if I don't check my message? No, of course not. Even if we feel like it is, it won't. And it's just like, getting used to and sitting through it. I mean, I am just as guilty of this as anyone. In fact, probably more so than most, because I have a lot of FOMO, and it is hard to fight it. But yeah, definitely. And, certain things to take away and certain things to work through is, flipping the phone upside down when you're doing something or you're with someone.
Oh yeah, like that for me. I'm practicing it more and more at work when it comes to it. This has more to do with people pleasing. Mm. When there's a phone message or something, and I'm in the middle of doing something, and I go, okay, I can stop what I'm doing and I can go take care of this. Why? They can wait. We didn't schedule this phone call to happen today. Right. They called me now.
Yeah.
Well, I'm in the middle of something. They can wait. And so I do that a lot more at work, where it's like I'm in the middle of a task. I'm going to finish my task. Mm. I don't care what the I don't even think about the start playing out the tape in the fantasy world, which is okay. What are the potential benefits? It's like no, nothing's going to be gained. Yeah. Nothing's going to be lost.
Right. Well, and also like you're doing something. Why does something gain priority just because it comes through on your phone? You know what I mean?
Well,
like, why?
Yeah, or
like if someone like you're in the middle of something, someone walked up to you and said, "Hey, I want you to go do this." You'd be like, "I'm doing this. As soon as I'm done, I'll come over and do blah blah blah." But so, like you're saying, it's like, why should your phone be any different than that? Why should it gain priority over whatever you're doing?
Because it's become an expectation of us now.
Yep.
Because I know you have this device on you.
Yep. I was just talking about this with my mom earlier today. Yeah. About how people get mad if you don't respond right away at times.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like, just because I have a phone doesn't mean that I'm constantly on it or constantly can respond, or that I even notice. Like, my phone's on silent most of the time. Yeah, it vibrates. But if it's in my pocket sometimes, I don't even feel it. Yeah. So, and, the next time, or like yesterday, I'm in therapy. My phone's in my pocket. I don't pull it out for anything during that time. I don't look at it again until I walk out of the office, and then I'll look at it real quick mostly to see if there's an emergency of any kind, which I doubt there is, but, that's pretty much it. But I don't pull it out of my pocket while I'm in there. Whatever goes on in the world can wait the extra how many ever minutes. Odds are I'm not going to be able to do anything anyway, so.
And it's setting the expectations and setting new boundaries.
Right.
And people are used to just us responding right away or stopping what we're doing to help them and stuff.
They get mad because it inconveniences them is why.
Right.
Well, they don't care that it inconveniences us.
It's one of those things that if you think about it, it goes back to some of the other things that we've talked about changing the rules and not letting them know.
Yeah.
Because, if they're so used to just stopping by your desk and you stop and you do what they want you to do.
Yeah.
That's the rules, that's what they're used to doing. That's normal. And by stopping that and saying, no, I'm doing this and then I'm going to help you, it's going to be a little off-putting at first because it's not what they're used to.
Right.
But pretty soon you'll realize that not only are you training yourself, but you're training them as well. They understand what the expectation is.
The woman we talked to at the bank the other day actually said that, because there's on the one side of her desk, it's like when you first walk in the bank, for a while her desk was just right there. I mean, there was no partition, nothing. She just was right there. And she said that her last boss put up this partition because while she was talking with clients, people would literally just start talking to her and walk up to her. And she was like, kind of like, I'm in the middle of something here. Like, what are you doing? And they had gotten so comfortable with her that they felt that they could just impose themselves in any scenario, which is, first of all, just incredibly rude to the people sitting right there. You know, it's like, if you want to talk to her, have a seat and wait your turn, you know, but also that's disrespectful to her also, because it breaks her concentration from, you know, her current clients. So like you said, it's like, so now that partition has helped kind of set that boundary, physically actually setting a boundary, you know, that you're then backing up with behavior. That when people walk around now, if they come around it and try to talk to you, it's like, I'll be with you, blah, blah, blah. I'm with these people now, you know. And even she's like, I did that before, but it's still, you still have to go through that awkward moment of those people just coming in and talking right over whatever was going on. You know, also, you know, privacy reasons in that scenario, you know. So, you know, it's interesting that we're talking in the metaphorical about putting boundaries up, essentially, but literally there's a scenario where putting a physical boundary up is for the same exact reason, because if you don't, then people will just, you know, just impose themselves on things. And that's why I said it's that when we put a boundary up, it inconveniences them, because they want their answer now. And if we go, no, you can wait 5 minutes, then they're irritated because now they don't get what they want. But over time, it's similar like a dog. You know, when you're trying to train a dog, you know, the dog will get impatient, they'll get upset, but eventually they get trained. And in the end, then they start to behave accordingly. And it's the same thing with people. We all, you know, all of us, there's times where we don't realize we're being big jerks, and we need someone to kind of put, whether it's a physical boundary or an imaginary boundary, but they need to put something up that says, hey, wait your turn. You know, and the funny part, I think, with the urges and stuff, this is something I've really been fighting. I've noticed over the last couple of years that it's been getting worse for me, is like my, you know, like late night urges, you know, and I think it's that, and it used to be like, well, I was, you know, I'm bored, so, you know, it's like I'm mindlessly eating because my hands are empty kind of a thing. But it's like, now I got a phone in my hand, and I'm still wanting stuff on top. Like, I'll have the TV on, phone in my hand, and I'm still like, ooh, I should go get some cookies. You know, and the longer I sit there, again, like, you know, we learned in this, you know, that wave comes crashing real hard. And I've even tried, like, you know, like I cut up vegetables, and I got that. It's like, okay, I'll do vegetables, or I'll grab grapes instead. So it's still sweet, but it's whatever. And it's like, this is, it's like, you know, again, it's like the polar bear scenario. It's like the whole time I'm just thinking about cookies, and I'm eating the grapes, and it's not getting the job done, you know? So yeah, that was actually something I was going to talk to my therapist about at some point, was that, you know, I just, these urges with food, and I've gotten bad about some of it. Like, you know, if I have a bag of anything like gummy, I'm eating the whole bag. I mean, there's no, I'm going to have a few and portion them out across a week. I'm eating all of them, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I bought a bag of dark chocolate Rolos yesterday, and they're minis, and I'm like, oh, okay. I opened the bag, and I actually looked at them and saw they were wrapped, and was like, man, like, and then I was like, what are you doing here? Like, you're upset because you have to unwrap these.
So funny.
You know,
just open the bag and
I know, right? Well, honestly, I'm kind of used to that, because a lot of the candies have done that. They've made smaller versions, and they're not wrapped, which I remember when my nephew brought over Reese's peanut butter cups, and they're small ones, and they were unwrapped in a bag, and I'm like, this is a horrible idea. Like, I can just dump these right in my face. And now here I am, years later, looking at this bag of Rolos going, I have to unwrap each one. But I have found that unwrapping each one, first of all, it slows you down. But second of all, you start going, oh, wow, I've eaten a lot of these. I think if you know, you just reach your hand in there or just pour them in your face, you don't realize how many you're eating. But having to physically unwrap them, I think, makes a large difference, because I realized last night, I was like, I've probably eaten more than I should have of these, and I stopped. If they were unwrapped, I bet I would have eaten twice as many.
That makes sense.
You know, so I'm like, okay, well, maybe I shouldn't be mad at this.
I think the when you react to other, like how you respond to other people is a great practice for this. Because that I think that's a common, especially if it's somebody that's important to us.
Yeah.
That we, that, and then the other one would be important, would also be a good practice, is the idea of not multitasking. Like that,
Yeah.
that's one that we do all the time. It's like, okay, if you always watch TV when you eat, don't watch TV.
Right.
And go through the craving process, because it's going to happen.
Yeah.
If you always do a certain thing when you drive, don't do that thing.
Right.
And they're simple practices, and they're very common. And then I think it's worth tackling the big ones like food, because that's like, for me.
Well, like you said before, right?
So hard.
Like food is such a hard addiction because we have to eat.
You have to eat.
Like you don't have to be on your phone, even though we feel like it. You don't have to be. You don't have to have booze. You don't have to, whatever your addiction is, play video games, but you have to eat. So it's so hard to fight those urges because you also need to actually nourish yourself. It reminds me of something you guys talked about on Angela's Awesome podcast, Henno, when you were talking about when you eat, to not have the TV on, sit down, enjoy your food, like literally experience the food. Go through the, like this talks about, with the feeling everything around you, the sensations, right? And like you said, turn the TV off while you eat, because when you mindlessly eat, you're more likely to eat more.
Overeat. Exactly.
It's been proven time and again, and so that just be a good practice also, is just don't eat with the TV on, basically.
Yeah, or whatever it is that you do, whether
even
it's
if it's
read a magazine, a newspaper, stare at your phone. It's like put the phone, the tablet, everything down, sit somewhere by yourself, eat your food.
Right.
Focus on actually eating first, try to just eat a meal and get through the craving that you're going to have to be multitasking.
Right.
Okay. Then when you've done that, then focus on the food and the actual eating, and then portion control might actually get a little bit easier. And that's what we did talk about on Angela's Awesome podcast with that. And that was done as a task.
Yeah.
We did that as a challenge, a weekly challenge task, is to sit down and eat with nothing else.
Right.
And it wasn't easy.
No, it's not. Especially now. It's so hard because we all sit with our phones or a tablet while we're eating and just play a game or scroll social media. It's, so unnecessary, but it's that urge. We're conditioned to be on that phone all the time, so it's even tougher. But also, like another point on the multitasking is, again, studies have shown time and again that we are not as efficient when we multitask, that it drops your overall efficiency significantly. And then when you go from task to task, there's a cool off period that essentially you cool way off before you warm back up. So you're actually less productive for an amount of time before you then become peak productive again. Whereas if you just stayed on one task, once you warm up, you stay on task, and you'll finish typically faster and more efficient, or more accurately. Like I've seen, I don't know how many times these kind of studies pop up, that it's like multitasking is not something our brain is actually built for. And it reminds me of, if you ever have one of those like combo like TV VCRs or DVD players or whatever it is, typically any electronic device that does more than one thing doesn't do any one thing well. Tony has a grill that's a smoker. He's talked about how, it's not great at either one, whereas if he had a grill and a smoker, both of those are much more efficient at what they actually do. When you have to put the extra components in there, it makes it less efficient at what it does. And our brain's the same way. Our brain is meant to solve one problem, move to the next problem, move to the next problem. That's really how it's designed to work, even though we can split it and kind of think, but you drop your overall efficiency when you do it. So, that's another reason to not multitask, as well as, plus overall, all this fits back into just mindfulness, right? Like just being mindful about whatever it is you're doing. Like if you're at work, your mind really should be on your work. You're being paid to be there. That's really where your mind should be. Now I understand we all have external whatevers, but really that's where our brain is supposed to be, is on work, not who texted me or who sent me a Facebook message, or whatever. That stuff shouldn't even enter into our brains while we're working, technically, but it just allows you to enjoy things and focus better. I think a lot of us have talked about focus over the years, and we all know that, being on phones has really wrecked a lot of us in our focus, because as soon as we're all Pavlov's dog. As soon as we hear that ding on our phone, or we perk up and look at our phone, We're so conditioned to that buzz or ding or whatever the notification is,
For sure. And it's so important. It just really is. And it's something we've learned from such a young age, but as soon as we become adults, we forget. Our parents tell us to, no, you cannot have a cookie right now. We're going to be eating dinner.
Cookie.
Right. You can't do this because of this or that and the other.
Yeah.
And the first thing we do when we're adults is we're like, I don't have anyone telling me I can't anymore.
Turn into Cookie Monster. Nom, 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 nom.
Exactly. And it's all downhill from there.
Yeah.
I mean, what are they do? Our parents teaching us impulse control to ride the wave.
Yeah.
So now we have to relearn what they were telling us when they were being mean parents and not letting us have the cookie when we wanted the cookie.
Yep. That's why the whole time Henno was talking about, like, when you mentioned the ignoring, like how ignoring doesn't work, I was picturing, like, literally someone standing there going, cookie, 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 cookie. You just plug your ears, and you're like, there we go. And as soon as you unplug your ears, cookie, 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 and you're like, dang it. Like, it's still there,
So I would like to take this moment to apologize to everyone listening to the podcast that's going to the kitchen to get their cookies.
Cookie.
That was not our intention. So we do apologize.
Cookie. Me want cookie.
Well, guys, I think we covered a ton on this podcast.
Awesome.
Yes, it was really awesome, and I'm glad that you were able to bring that to our attention, Henno.
Yeah, it was good.
I know I, for one, am going to be doing some serious slow down and then sitting and on things.
I'm gonna go
bird surfing.
I'm gonna go get a cookie as soon as we're done.
Well, now that we're talking about food, I realized I didn't have dinner.
Oh
no!
boy.
Well, with that, so if you'd like to continue the conversation with us, you know what to do. You can reach us at the Crazy Life Podcast at Weebly.com is our website. Crazy Life Podcast at Outlook.com is our email address. If you would like to reach me, you can either reach me through the Facebook page, to which Brian will be telling you about, or you can always shoot me an email. Just address it to Jen, and I'll be happy to read it and get back to you. I'm still currently trying to stay off social media because that seems to be very beneficial for me.
It's beneficial for anyone.
Well, I don't judge others. I can only say what works for me, and it works for me for sure.
Yeah.
So with that, Henno, how about you? How can they reach you?
You can find me on Twitter at Ida Henno, and you can find me on Facebook and Instagram and all the things if you just look for Henno Heitcher. And this is also news. Moving the Needle is no more.
What?
Sean had sent me a text message last week, like it was on Friday night or Friday, and said, hey, what's going on with how's the edit going on the last episode? And I mean, we're talking something we recorded in December, and it was the next morning, and he was asking about a podcast we were actually going to try to do with Brian, and I got up in the morning and I just was like, I haven't done anything, and I think I'm kind of burned out on this podcast thing.
Mm-hmm.
And if we didn't edit the shows as much as we do, maybe it wouldn't be, quite as burdensome.
Yeah.
But simple fact is I am trying to simplify things, and that was one thing I could easily simplify because I am excited about music stuff right now. And, I've been pretty much doing some sort of a podcast, not as long as Brian and not as long as you guys have been doing this, but I think it was about a year after you guys started. And at some points I was, like we all were doing 2 or 3 a week, and that's on top of all my other hobbies.
Yeah.
And
it's something that, like I've told people, as much as I enjoy doing it and stuff, it's like, it's still a decent amount of work, and you're not getting paid for it. It's simply for the love of doing it. And when you're only doing something for the love of it and it's a lot of work, it's easy for it to become a stressor versus a positive. And so many people we know have gotten burnout on doing podcasts. It's so, frequent.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't.
So, Hanno, are you breaking up with us?
No, I'm not. But
okay, just double checking.
No, I'm going to stick with what we talked about at the beginning of the year, which is, hey, if there's something going on for me this week, I'm just going to tell you.
Yeah.
I just don't have it.
That's right.
That's fair.
So I said, and that goes for any one of us, I feel, is if at any week it's not happening, it's not happening. That's okay.
Well, just to clarify, we're just dating. We're not relationshiping anymore. I get it. Okay. We're just dating.
Yeah. Yeah. But we know Hanno doesn't want to see any other podcast either. So,
Well, it is nice to know that, because it doesn't really put out.
He's just moved on to our sexier cousin music.
Exactly.
Or I shouldn't say moved on to, moved back to. Yeah.
Yeah. All the same gear, you just use more of it.
Right.
Love it. All right, Brian, how about you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Stunami. My other show can be found at saltylanguage.com or at salty_language on Twitter, or at Salty Language Pod on YouTube if you want to check us out over there. We usually go live every week unless Tony gets a suspension. But if you want to check that out, I usually post like immediately before we go on. So follow us on Twitter if you're ever interested in following and watching us on YouTube. But you can always go and watch afterwards. But this week we talked about Disney has a collectible card game coming out. We talked about the Super Bowl. We talked about Borgs, but not the Star Trek Borgs, but the one that apparently is all the rage with the kids, where they're taking a gallon of water and pouring some of it out and then putting vodka and some sort of like a Mio or something flavoring in there. That way, as they're getting drunk, they're also staying hydrated.
That was my college drink.
Really?
Uh-huh.
That's really funny.
That was my college drink.
Because Tony and I talked about that. How, now it's like, no, but back in our 20s, we would have probably been part of this trend.
We were part of this trend.
I didn't really.
The trend before it hit.
Well, no, I know, but we didn't do this really.
We did it in the basement.
No, no. We drank like Kool-Aid with vodka in it. It's not the same thing. This is like sugar-free, and this is mostly water. Like you're topping it off with alcohol. But
gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, it's not quite the same thing because there's no sugar rush or hangover in it. So the point of it is you stay super hydrated and you don't really get massive hangovers.
I was on the diet, so mine was sugar-free.
But we didn't. Yeah, but that's why I said we weren't. We were drinking Kool-Aid with vodka in it. So yeah. But then, and that was the thing though. But we weren't also sitting around with giant jugs of it. That's what they're doing.
This is true.
Like they're taking like gallon jugs doing this. So it's yeah. And the sad part is, like, when you read about it, and it was like, there's also the fact that you're carrying your own drink all the time, and there's a couple for the party scene. I can actually understand a couple of the things for it. Not advocating it, but I understand.
And folks, we can smell vodka. We can smell vodka on your breath. Anyone who tells you that vodka is odorless is full of it.
No, what it is, it doesn't have a distinct odor compared to other boozes. That's what the federal guideline says, is that it can't.
Really?
I kid you not, I just listened to a podcast about it last night, and they were talking about the federal guidelines say that it can't have a distinct smell or taste as a pure vodka. Now, they can add flavoring and whatnot after, but when it's distilled as vodka, it can't have a distinct flavor or smell. So basically, all distilled vodka basically is the same, but then the next step is where it takes on its differences. Yeah. So
it's like gin is infused vodka.
Right. So anyway, so all that aside, check us out at saltylanguage.com. That show's not safe for work, so please, be careful who's around when you're listening. You can find this show on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/crazylife, or The Crazy Life, I'm sorry. I'm a mess. Facebook.com/groups/crazylife podcast. I'm reading the wrong line. Jeez. And we're part of the Tangent Bound Network, which can be found at tangentboundnetwork.com. So please go check out the other shows on there. And, I think, as always, please check on, others that may need help. Just check in with your friends and everything. Let people know how you're doing. And like Jen said earlier, we know it's so hard to stay in there and keep fighting. We know all three of us have been through it. We've all had our own things, and it doesn't just go away. It's not like it's a one-time fight. Sometimes I've had, I don't know how many fights with my insurance, my doctors, my this, so it's something you have to stay vigilant, and you have to stay as your own advocate. So please, keep fighting, keep asking for help, all that kind of such. And of course, please be kind to one another. It's always nice to see somebody just, little acts of kindness. Even if it's, I was going to the post office and the guy in front of me he had his arms full of stuff. And, and I was he struggled, I couldn't get to the first door quick enough. And I was like, let me get the next door for you. And he was like, oh, thank you. He's like, I thought I was going to drop everything. So, just little stuff like that can really just perk up your day as well as someone else's. So please be kind and help when you can.
And I have a challenge for everybody out there.
Cookie.
Not the cookie.
Oh.
Something better.
Polar bear.
No.
Oh, all
is
right.
touch. We understand COVID and germs and all that stuff, but we need to start appropriate for the relationship, touching each other again.
Oh boy.
So, my goal and my challenge to you folks is every day touch someone. Whether it's a handshake, a hug, a kiss, obviously relationship appropriate. Just touch someone. And just that sharing of energy and care will start going a long way, hopefully, in our moods and, in just our outlook. It's amazing how simple a little touch could be to how we feel. So do some research on it. There's tons of studies. With that, go out there, have the best touchy-feely week that you can, and have a good one.